So up next, we do have the regional updates, and we have Wes, and we have John Neistat, and I believe it's Chad.
Yeah, that's correct. Just kind of to make sense of that. So this morning, Gloria did an excellent job at kind of laying out what is in the Native American Policy Implementation Plan. And DJ just did, and thank you to DJ for doing a great job on kind of going over what's in the Native American policy. So for this hour, what we wanted to do is I was going to go through a couple items, one being the implementation plan. I'm going to try to be very careful not to repeat some of the things that Gloria and DJ did a great job to explain and try to respect their time. And I think it might be more pertinent to open it up for questions at the point that we cover everything. And then after that, I'm going to yield the floor to both Chad and John Neistat, who are in our ES offices, and they're going to have a few ES related items to go over, and they're the experts there, so I'll yield to them at that time. But I want to thank Julie and everybody for having us aboard and having us as part of this. Darren, thank you for helping us set this up. This is really an important opportunity, and I feel really grateful and excited to be able to talk to this group. So my name is Wesley Foster. I'm the Native American liaison here in the Southwest region. I wanted to put my information out here. It's been unfortunate having started in the middle of COVID that I haven't actually had the face-to-face chance to meet with many of you. And I think that's extremely unfortunate. And it's something that, I mean, we all hope things will kind of blow over. And I hope that we can get back to that point where that's more of a common interaction. And where we can, I have still tried to engage on that level. And I'm trying to do my best with that said. But I wanted to make sure that I put my information out there and that everybody has them, and at any time, everybody feels comfortable to be able to reach out. And I mean, that's what I'm here for, to help you guys with any issues and concerns. I know we're talking about the Native American Policy Implementation Plan. We're going to get that finalized. However, I'm here before we do that. I'm here after we do that. I mean, I want to make sure that I'm doing my job and doing it well, regardless of any of those types of things. So a little about me. I don't really like talking about myself, but like I said, a lot of you haven't met me, and I think it's important to kind of present a little of who I am, just to hopefully give you a glimpse of who I am and start that dialogue. So I was actually born and raised on the lands of the Puyallup tribe. I actually worked for the tribe for 5 years after graduating high school, before I went to college. Before this job, I worked for the United States Environmental Protection Agency for about 13 years in the role as a tribal coordinator. In that role, I worked across Alaska, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. So I have a lot of things that I respected about how the EPA did things that I kind of hope that we can eventually do here, and things like that. So and some of that you'll kind of see in some of the stuff that I present here in a minute. I have a lifelong appreciation for lands and species as a whole, but I think the Southwest has always been an area that speaks to my soul, speaks to, I mean, it's a special place. And I think that, I mean, in general, we need to protect the land and protect the land for the people who live off the land. But I mean, overall, I think that's so important, and that's something that I really take near and dear to my heart. Like I said, unfortunately, I started kind of in the middle of COVID. I started last June 2020, so I've been here about a year and a month. So it's been kind of that transition period of trying to make these connections over these video means, but I mean, you can't replace actually getting out and meeting people face to face. However, I have had a chance to do that, and I mean, it's always been a really successful endeavor. I mean, having been out to White Mountain Apache tribe and over, I mean, there's multiple tribes that I've been able to actually engage with face to face. So I'm really appreciative of that. And that kind of leads me into my next point. is that strengthening our relationship with our tribal partners is a priority. It's something that I think is fundamental to my job. It's something, I mean, what I hope is that everybody takes my contact information and I'm inundated with requests to even meet, whether that, I mean, I get COVID a thing. I think, I mean, we all know, I mean, actually showing up is the number one thing to do. If that's not going to be a possibility, then I mean, we can go the next step of a video conference or telephone, whatever anyone feels comfortable. But my overall hope is that, I mean, anyone and everyone reaches out on issues that they want to work together with. I know we talked about engaging the youth better earlier, and I mean, that's super important to us here at the Fish and Wildlife Service. Tomorrow, or actually Thursday, Melissa Mata is going to do a presentation on 4 of the ACE opportunities that we have, and we sent that out through the society as well, and we're trying to engage the youth as much as possible. But I think that's something that, regardless of when the implementation plan is done, I think that's something, I mean, I want to do now, right? Like, I mean, I really want to partner with anybody on any of these things that are going to move our common objectives forward. I think that's something that I pride myself with. And I mean, I hope that anyone who has something that they want to move forward, that I can be of help. I hope you reach out to me and give me a chance to help you work on those items. So the 2 main topics I wanted to discuss for today is I wanted to give an update on the Tribal Wildlife Grant. And then the second piece is going to be the Native American Policy Implementation Plan. So moving into the first item, the Tribal Wildlife Grant, the 2021 update. So for the Fish and Wildlife Service Southwest region, we received 14 proposals for 2021. The scoring review committee is currently reviewing those proposals, and we should get together as a group to be able to score and rank those. The top 2 proposals will be funded by the region, and the other proposals will be sent for national consideration. And we hope to have as much, we hope to have several proposals that are vying for funding. We did a lot of things to try to engage tribes with ensuring that these proposals improve year after year. We had a couple webinars where we presented the scoring criteria so everyone understood exactly how they were scored. A lot of times proposals are good, but if you're scoring off of, I mean, a set scoring criteria, it can be good, but if it misses the mark on the scoring areas, I mean, it could be the difference between being funded and not. So something that was super important for us this year was for last year, we wanted to give back the feedback for how people could, or how tribes could improve their proposals. And this year we wanted to actually put the effort up front to meet with anyone who was willing to meet with us for technical assistance or to gain a better understanding on how exactly they're scored and stuff like that. We met with everyone who reached out to us, and that's going to continue to be the same. I want to thank Chad and John and also Dennis Wilson, who's not on this call, but those individuals were really instrumental in joining me and providing the assistance that we were able to do this year. So the entire process should be wrapped up by October 1st. So there's a lot that should be going on and should be done by October 1st, including, which would get us into the next item, is the Native American Policy Implementation Plan. Again, we hope to have this finalized by October 1st. Now, I deleted quite a few slides because Gloria did an amazing job presenting a lot of the actionable items, which I was going to do. And then, like I said, DJ did a good job on explaining the Native American policy as a whole. So I wanted to try to kind of fill in a little bit in between those and provide answers to any questions that you may have. I would like to also make sure that if anything, I hope that everybody reviews and provides feedback, comments, ways to be better on this plan. We've had amazing people take part in creating this plan. I just came aboard. This plan was done long before I got here, so I just want to send out kudos to that team who worked so hard on getting this together. And then it just shows for the Southwest being the one region with this implementation plan, I think that it just shows how great of leadership we have here to be able to work across work across multiple like boundaries to be able to get this done. So I wanted to cover the who, what, why, when, and how. And basically, I wanted to provide, so we went over some of the action items. BJ went over exactly what's in the policy, but I wanted to give a layman's approach to exactly what this all means for somebody who might not be familiar with all that. I mean, for them to have a basic understanding to be able to understand why they're reviewing this and why they should give comment. So I'm going to move into the who. The Fish and Wildlife Service Southwest Region solicited assistance from tribal partners in 2016. So they reached out, the service reached out to tribes seeking assistance for who would ultimately serve on the panel to produce this document. And that was in 2016, shortly after the Native American policy was released. A panel of federal and tribal representatives drafted the Native American Policy Implementation Plan, which you see, and it's pretty much in its current form. And I want to just give, again, kudos and shout outs to those involved that helped this endeavor. On the tribal side, we have Gloria, Darren, Cynthia, Salso, Pat, and Adam. I think they did an amazing job on providing their own perspectives, and I think that they brought to the table, and I think it really made this plan better. On the federal participant side, we had John Nystead, who did a lot of work before I got here, Melissa Mata, Chad, Mary Elder, Joe Early before myself, Elvin Brown, myself, and Chris Kittian, who's now with DIA. So I just want to send kudos out to everyone. I think that when you look at the plan and the importance of this plan, you can see how much when we come together and work on a common issue, I think you can see how much we can solve. So I hope to do that not only with what's in this plan, but also, like I said, with other things that are important for people in the region. So moving on from the who to the what. So the Native American Policy Implementation Plan panel works to capture actionable items from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Native American Policy. Gloria went over those earlier, so I'm not going to repeat those, but those actionable items were taken from the Native American policy, which DJ just went over. So those are directly from there. And those are ways that we can create actionable items so that we can be successful in our relationship and help build those common collaborative efforts. The implementation plan was developed to better lay out the responsibilities of the Fish and Wildlife Service to tribal partners and to increase collaboration across the board on numerous different issues. Some of the key areas, actionable items are, as several have gone over, sovereignty and government-to-government relations, communications and relationships, resource management, culture and religion, law enforcement, tribal capacity building, assistance and funding, and implementation and monitoring. So we got the who, what, and now we move on to the why. Well, the federal government, and I think you all definitely know this, but I think it's important to repeat day after day why we do this work. The federal government, including the Fish and Wildlife Service, has a unique federal trust responsibility to tribes. Our regional director, Amy Luders, has stated her commitment to such tribal work, and it's extremely important for our leadership to engage in a full faith manner to bring this work to fruition and have great integrity in that work. We all share a common goal of conservation. I think that I'm really a non-political person, and I think that a lot of times we get lost in certain things, but I think at the end of the day, I think everybody's hearts are generally in the same place, and we have the same common goals of conservation. And I think that even when we face hiccups, I hope that ultimately we can go back and we can find the commonality there and move forward on these cross endeavors. And again, in an ever-changing environment, society where presidents change, administrations change, everything changes. One thing that shouldn't and doesn't change, and that's the U.S. federal government's trust responsibility to tribes. So that doesn't change. That's there, and it doesn't matter on the it shouldn't matter on the administration. So we go to the when. So what I would say is now the Native American Policy Implementation Plan is currently open for tribal comment. We invite any comments to go along with what we found to be, I would say, a thorough and very exciting document that's going to lay out a precedent for how we move forward and how we collaborate on all these important endeavors. So we did release this for a 30-day period. We're 10 days into that, but I don't want to seem like we shortened that. The period began on July 28th. We sent a letter out to tribal leaders and also copied all the POCs, which is really point of contact, which is really important to ensure that the leaders are aware of this, but also the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis have the same information. You kind of can get to that review. Questions, concerns, feedback. I hope I put my email address right there again. If you have any questions, comments, and feedback, I know we're going to open up the floor, but I also want to be cognizant that not everyone feels comfortable opening up in a group setting. So if there's anything that you want to reach out to, or any questions, comments, feedback that you have that you want to just direct to me, please go ahead and do so. My email is pretty easy, like Adam's was. It's my first name, last name. Well, first name underscore last name at fishandwildlifeservice.com. So pretty easy. Just remember there's a T in my name, not because I care so much, but I want your email to get to me. So we're aiming to have this completely finalized by October 1st, 2021. So that's in a month and 20 days. So moving on to the how. The publication of the Native American Policy Implementation Plan will set a precedent on how we will move forward in terms of the Fish and Wildlife Service's Southwest region's engagement and partnerships with tribes. Some of the behind the scene work at the Fish and Wildlife Service has already begun in the current year's Native American Policy Implementation Work Plan. So what exactly does that mean? Each year we are going to release a implementation work plan that helps guide the NAL program on a regional level, so that we can actually move towards these pieces that you see laid out in the implementation plan. A lot of what was worked on this year was really in-house stuff that we needed to get in order to be able to, in good faith, work with tribes on these. And you'll see here when I mentioned some of the things that we went over or that we've been working on, you can kind of see that those are kind of internal things that will allow us to be better at our job as we start to engage our tribal partners. From here on out, so last year, right when it came aboard, we created this work plan. Like I said, it was mostly internally focused. From this point on, we're going to make public the work plans that we work based on, or that we base our work off of in the NAL program. So that's basically what we within our region on the NAL program are working on. So that's independent of, it's independent but in support of this implementation plan. So some of the work that we've done this year has been the creation of a mandatory baseline training for all fish and wildlife staff on work with our tribes. That's really based off of the tribal trust and sovereignty and how we should work on a government level with tribes. So we've worked with NCPC to create this training. I would say it's a month away from being done. We have a couple more pieces that we need to capture on video to be able to put that together. But that's going to be basically pertinent to the, or it's basically going to be focused on the tribal trust. What we hope to do in the future, and we didn't want to do this without engaging all of you. And it's something that this next year I hope to get engaged when we form the external tribal advisory work group. Is what we want to do is create a cultural competency piece where we can actually teach our staff, train them on how to better work and communicate with tribal governments. I think I can't remember exactly who said it earlier, but they said it perfectly when they said that a lot of times the service staff don't know how to work with tribes, you know, and I don't think that's acceptable, and that's something that we definitely want to change. However, I think that to change that, we need to do exactly like what we did with this implementation plan and work with our tribal partners to ensure that we're actually providing accurate training and that we're actually representing the right things and not just a one-sided service perspective. So the second item that we worked on this year was a regional contact database that will allow us to be more precise in our communications with tribes. When I came aboard, I mean, it was really, I mean, the first month I've noticed that everybody I worked with had an Excel spreadsheet titled tribal contact, right? And I mean, and when I first got here within the month, I looked over all those and I saw so many inconsistencies and so many errors. And I mean, with good faith, I think that I mean, a lot of the staff people, they don't have the time to keep these things up to date. That's more along the lines of, that's my job, that's the job of people under this program. And also, I think it's something that we can partner with our tribal partners to really request that we are able to better understand when there's changes in staff and tribal leadership. That's super important because there's nothing more embarrassing than sending letters to the former tribal leader or reaching out on an issue that's important to a tribe and getting a former staff member and not knowing that somebody moved on. A lot of times, I mean, it's a fine line between when we don't hear something back. I mean, we don't want to, I don't know, it's an assumption that we're not hearing something back because maybe there's not an interest to take on that issue. But I think that that's something that we want to be really careful about assuming, because I mean, I always throw in the caveat, well, what if that information didn't get to the right person or to, I mean, if somebody moved on, it obviously got to nobody. So that's something I really wanted to be cognizant about. We spent quite a bit of money and quite a bit of effort to kind of drive this database forward. It's not just going to be a database where it lists the information, but it's going to help us engage with our tribal partners on the species and the actions that matter to them most, right? When we want to ensure that, I mean, through my conversations with tribes, you know, I mean, they've made one thing clear, and that's that they don't want to be defined but to their interest by a map, right? So we wanted to create a system that would allow tribes the capability to let us know issues that they were interested in and that they want to be informed about that maybe a map would never even suggest, right? So that's something that we really wanted to be cognizant about. And the last piece of work that we've done a lot, but the last major piece that I wanted to hit on is the initiation of the internal tribal advisory work group, which will work with the external tribal advisory work group once that's formed next year. This is super important, and this is something, I mean, I guess it's kind of ironic. This was called out for in the Native American Policy Implementation Plan, but it's something that EPA also did in a different context. So it just makes sense because I think it really allows the service to have one voice. So what this internal tribal advisory work group is going to be is it's going to consist of one staff member per program. And so that we can better engage across the board on multiple topics with all of our programs versus basically our right hand not knowing what our left hand is doing. We want to be able to maximize resources for our tribal partners. We want to make sure that if there's something that we can leverage, if there's work going on with one of our tribal partners, we want to be able to leverage that and make sure that we're providing the most, the biggest return on investment for our tribal partners under our tribal trust. So that's something that's super important, and we'll be able to streamline communications inward and outward, and we'll be able to, for example, if a tribe brought an issue that it wanted, cross-program issue that it wanted handled, we, under this platform, we would be able to present that within that group, and that would be able to be dealt with in a very effective and efficient manner versus, I mean, the old school, email one person in each program and hope they get back to you. So this was something that was super important. It's even more important because of the next step. So the next step, which we're going to shoot for next year, is to, and Gloria mentioned it on the actionable items, that the regional director is going to be responsible for coming up with a strategy for creating the external tribal advisory work group, which is going to consist of tribal representatives. And I think that we can, the fruits of this endeavor right here, you can see in the document that we're requesting comment for. When you see the participation of Fish and Wildlife staff along with the tribal representatives that work on this, you can really see how much greatness can come from that type of collaboration when we have that common goal. So I'm really super excited about both the internal and external work groups, and then bringing them together to work on a lot of these issues that are super important to you. I mean, for example, we talked about engaging the youth better. Anything that is important to our tribal partners, we want that group to be aware of, and I think that way we can maximize our resources on behalf of our tribal partners. So my presentation was a little bit shorter because I deleted quite a few slides, but I know that with three of us kind of covering this topic, there might be some, well, maybe there's confusion or maybe there's just questions. So, I mean, I would love to open up the floor to any questions that you have. Before I do that, I just want to point out my contact information again, because I do want to be cognizant that some people might feel more comfortable following up direct or behind the scenes. So with that, I guess I would open it up to any questions. After the questions, I'm going to yield the floor over to John and Chad, who can go over what they have, and then maybe we can open the floor up again at the end if there's any cross questions. So I can't see any hands. If there are any.
Do we have any questions from the group? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay. Well, I hope that's a good thing. I think, honestly, Gloria and DJ did a great job in their presentations earlier. So I think they were super thorough. So again, I want to thank those two for their contributions to, I mean, I think everything they provided actually helped me with my presentation, and I think it really complemented that. Since there's no questions, if anybody thinks of anything, I'm definitely going to be here right now, but we can follow up after John and Chad go. So I'll go ahead and yield back to Darren, who can select whichever of those two they want, or he wants to start.
Okay, so John, you're up next.
Thanks, Darren, and thank you, Wes, for that presentation. My name is John Neisted. I am the tribal coordinator for Arizona Ecological Services. I'm coming to you from Flagstaff. I also have some responsibility to assist with tribal consultations for all programs of the Fish and Wildlife Service in Arizona, and on an as-needed basis to help New Mexico ES if they so choose. To start with, I'd like to just say thank you to Wes for, since coming on, really stepping in and stepping up in taking the reins for the Native American policy, as well as the program for the Native American liaison, and running with that. Wes has done a lot of work behind the scenes. He already pointed out that, you know, it's very unfortunate he's not been able to get out and meet with people because of the pandemic. But rest assured that I have observed Wes working very hard behind the scenes. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank him for taking his job so seriously, you know, and to heart. And I think you all will see the fruits of Wes's hard work if you haven't already seen them yet. One thing I would like to point out before I give a brief report for my office is just a point of clarification in case anyone was not completely clear on it. Gloria did a great job in laying out the implementation plan for the Native American policy for the Southwest region. And Wes talked about work plans, and the relationship between the work plans and the implementation plan is that the work plan is really taking the action items from the implementation plan and putting them on the ground. So the work plan is how you get the implementation plan onto the ground. And so in my view, there's this seamless connection between you know, Gloria's presentation and what Wes was talking about in terms of these work plans. And the work plans will be developed each year. There'll be an annual work plan because we have, I don't know, maybe it's like 60 action items from the implementation plan, and we just need to take a bite-sized piece every year and put those onto the ground. As for my office in Arizona, I just wanted to bring up 2 or 3 things. The first is that this past April 15th, we had our annual coordination meeting. It was held virtually, as all of our meetings are being held today in this era. And so, you know, that's really unfortunate because our coordination meetings, the thing I really valued about those meetings was seeing people in person and the side conversations. So our meeting this year was abbreviated. It was just a little over half a day. We tried to cover everything that was important, but I know that we can't have the kind of full conversations on a virtual meeting as we do when we're in person. So I'm really looking forward to next year, early 2022, to have an in-person meeting. But also, if there's ever anything that folks need to talk with me about, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone, shoot me an email, and we can take care of things that way. The other thing I wanted to do was, I'm not sure if I can, oh yeah, I can share my screen. I just wanted to show you our website for Arizona Ecological Services, because this is a really great resource for looking at everything that we're doing. On the front page, there is a list of all the actions that we're currently taking. And all of these things are things that we communicate with tribes by email and by letter, offering consultation. But if you ever need to refresh your memory, or like maybe you don't have that email I sent you, you can always come here to our website to look at all the things that we're up to in terms of the actions we're taking, mainly on endangered species. And then I also wanted to point out that if you click on the contact AZES, it takes you to a site that shows all of our staff. And also, very importantly, it shows who all of our staff leads are for tribes in Arizona. So if you click on the cactus, it'll bring up a list of all the tribes in Arizona and who the staff leads are. So I am the tribal coordinator. I help all of our staff with anything tribal. But if you have something that's very specific to your tribe, like you have a project that you want to pursue to conserve, the southwestern willow flycatcher on the Ak-Chin Indian community, contact Greg Beatty, and he can help you with that project. And so I think that's all I have to share. Of course, when Chad gets done, folks have questions for him or for me or for Wes, then we can take those at that time. But I think I'm going to turn it back over to Darren so that he can introduce Chad.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, Chad, you're up next.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
So I'm Chad Baumler. I'm the tribal coordinator for the New Mexico Ecological Services Office. In Lake West, I started in the middle of COVID about last June as a biologist, and then I took over the tribal coordinator duties from Melissa Mata towards the end of last year. So unfortunately, I haven't had the chance either to meet many of you in person. Hopefully I get to go out with Wes or John once things cool down a little bit. But I did just want to mention a few things. We are trying to do a better job of providing species-specific trainings through our office. I know so far we have done the cuckoo, the flycatcher, the salamander, and the owl this year. But if there's a species training request that you have, please feel free to contact me, and I'll throw my email address in the chat real quick. And I know me and John, we have had a lot of turnover even since I've been here. So I know me and John have been putting together tribal initiation for our new biologists every 3 or 4 months to try and get them up to speed. But if there is an issue where someone didn't reach out when they should have, please let me know and we can try to rectify that in the future. And then, like John, I'll share our page real quick so you can see how it's set up. Can you see the web page?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So this is some of the things I mentioned, the couple trainings we had for the flycatcher and cuckoo, and then some listings that we've been through this year. And we don't have, for New Mexico, we don't have tribal leads. You can reach out to me or the species lead for the biologist, which is that second tab over there. and it'll list all the species leads. And as you can tell, most of my species are the fish species of New Mexico. So if it's covering a species outside of the San Juan, feel free to reach out to me. Most likely I have it. If not, I can put you in contact with the right person. And I'd like to thank John and Wes, since I'm still only about 7 or 8 months into this. Been leaning on them a lot to get things done on the tribal side, as well as Melissa Mata. So I think that's all I had. If there's any questions for me or John.
Okay, is there any questions from the group? I do have one question, and I'll go ahead and read it. I believe this may be for Wes. From Julie Thorstensen. You said for tribal wildlife grant applications from the Southwest region, we've been told only 25% of TWIG apps get funded. So realistically, is the Southwest region looking at 3 to 4 projects funded?
I can speak historically. Last year we had 7, and the year before we had 6. So that's, I mean, I can't know that for sure. Once the national program does its job, and or the national panel does its job, and goes through the national proposals, we'll know that better. What I can say for sure is that each region funds its top 2 proposals, and then any proposals after that get sent to the national panel for consideration, and they actually have a formula that they go after, and they basically take all the other proposals from all the regions, and they apply that formula, and then from that point they select the highest rating proposals from that point, and that's how they're funded on the national level. Hope that makes sense. And just one other thing, I want to thank Melissa for chiming in and reminding me. So we're working with Julie and others and our colleagues in the Migratory Birds Program to put on a Eagle Summit, or we're trying to for next somewhere between April and June. So I just wanted to throw that out there and remind everybody. It was about 2 months ago that we sent out a request for comment if anybody had any other items that they wanted covered aside from anything that could fall under migratory birds, so that we could make sure that we engage with the right programs for who the tribes want to hear from. If that changes, please reach out to me. But that's what we're hoping for, is that late next spring that we'll be able to hold that. But then again, that's COVID pending. So if COVID doesn't get better, then we'll have to go back and decide whether we want to wait for the next year or whether we want to hold that virtually. That was the plan. Anybody else? Any other questions? Julie, did that help? I don't see your question, but I heard it. I hope that helped answer the question.
And if I could,
Question?
excuse me, sorry.
Did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump back in. I forgot to mention that next Tuesday from 9:30 to 12:30 New Mexico time, we are having a Mexican wolf working group to address tribal interests regarding the new 10J rule before it publishes on the register. So if you need the meeting details, please reach out to me, John, Wes, or Sarah Rinkovich with New Mexico ES, and we can get you that information.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the participants? I don't see any hands raised. I will ask the question, and I've been asking this for the past year, even during COVID, and I know John has given me a somewhat answer, but maybe this might even be brought up at the national conference. But with the new administration, what is the new changes to the regions gonna look like? Is it gonna remain as is, or are you guys going back to the old regional outline?
So, I mean, I hate to be able to answer your question, but I mean, that is the question's worth $1 million. I think, I mean, I've asked that same question on behalf of multiple tribes that have asked me, and I mean, I guess I would, you know, maybe DJ is the answer. I hate to say, but I haven't heard it.
Darren, I love the $1 million question. It still remains to be answered, I guess. It's at this point, we're operating, incorporating interior region / legacy region sort of style. I don't think internally the service really has quite sort of figured out how we're handling that. Obviously, I haven't been able to grasp that at the tribal wildlife grants level because obviously the interior regions cross boundaries into the old legacy regions. But that said, I'm remaining optimistic. BIA didn't shift to the interior region, so I don't, at this point, I'm hoping to be optimistic. And who knows, maybe there will be another shift. I don't know.
Okay, John, I see your hands up.
Yeah, so I know that the map is a mess, and those are my words. It's my opinion, but we did receive word from our regional director that at least for the southwest region of the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, which is going to be New Mexico and Arizona, that we look to Albuquerque, we look to Wes. Wes is our Native American liaison, and that's the same as it's always been. So, and I think that's the same way for the other regions, that the way it was before, in terms of your Native American liaison, that's the way it continues to be, regardless of the way a map looks. So for everyone on this call who is in New Mexico and Arizona, Wes is your Native American liaison. So if you have any policy or big picture, questions, go to Wes. If you've got something that's closer to the ground and you're in New Mexico, go to Chad. For Arizona, it's me, but Wes is our Native American liaison.
Okay, thank you, John. Do we have any other questions from the group? We still have about 15 minutes or so before the end of our conference sessions for today. Go ahead, Chris. I see your hand raised up.
Yeah, can you hear me, Darren?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, my question regarding that, on who the tribes in the Southwest should be talking to, has any type of formal or informal notification been provided to the Southwest region tribes that West is the liaison? Because I can recall when we had that our annual meeting in October 2019, there was still no direction, and the meeting got pretty heated because the tribes weren't comfortable about having to travel to Colorado or to talk to that liaison, knowing that they had already established a very well working relationship with the Albuquerque liaison. And so now that I'm hearing what John said, I'm just curious, have the tribes been notified? Because in my talks with some of our tribal partners, there's still uncertainty. They're still uncertain as far as who they should be talking to. So I guess I just want to put it out there: is has the service followed up on that and actually put it out there to the tribal community?
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'll actually take that. Yeah, it was, I'm trying to remember the exact date. It was last August sometime, and I can follow up with you on that, Amy sent out a letter to tribal leaders, notifying them of that. Trying to remember the exact date. But I'll follow up with you, Chris, on that. But yeah, the letter did go out in August of last year, stating that change, or stating that to be the fact.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions out there?
Hey, Darren, this is Julie. So we had some similar concerns, and remember that the Southwest region, the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, is not only New Mexico and Arizona. So I did see that the service updated their website, because when I asked Scott about this, about what it was going on, to me, it's confusing, because when Fish and Wildlife is talking, they're talking about regions and legacy regions. And, you know, I was told, well, if they had a good working relationship with their legacy region person, all they had to do was do an MOU, that they still wanted to work with them. So I think just following up, I think it's still confusing. I know it's kind of out of your hands as far as the unified regions go, but I did see that the service has updated their website based on that, because I think there's tribes that maybe are just, you know, as they come into Fish and Wildlife, maybe new, that haven't been working on projects, they need to know who to contact, and the website definitely did not provide that information. So hopefully there's better communication. And Wes, I know you said there was a Dear Tribal Leader letter that went out, but you know, we'd like to help with that communication to get that information to the tribal fish and wildlife professionals that you know, really are the ones that'll probably be reaching out.
Okay, Julie, I'll go ahead and work with the others on this call and follow up on that with you, so that we can get the information out there. And thank you for being willing to do that, to help us with that.
Okay, we have another question from Corey Lucero. Corey?
Hi, everybody. My question is, when that letter went out to the tribes, was any account made on how much turnover happens a year? Because even if that letter went out last August, some of the pueblos changed in December. So where did the direction go from there?
Yeah, I don't think, yeah. The letter was just sent out. If there were those changes, then that's something that wasn't addressed after that should have been. And we'll follow back up with that, because that wasn't something I was familiar with at the time. So and I think the need is clear on this call, that needs to be recommunicated. So we'll go ahead and work on that, because that wasn't the case at the time. Hope that helps answer the question. But it helps to understand that intricacy about the changeover in December.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that. Not only with tribes, but I believe with the service, it was mentioned there's been a lot of turnover. Some employees have retired and some have left. If we can you provide an update listing of those, I guess, essential personnel, mainly migratory birds, your whisper folks, and the law enforcement folks as well? Who's still around and who's the next contact person? Because I believe Eldon Brown is no longer there in the migratory birds permits. And I know some other folks in the whisper have left. And it would just be nice to find out who's the new points of contact.
Yeah, Darren, I'll go ahead and, along with the other information I promised, I'll go ahead and also get you guys the new POCs. Yeah, there has been a change. Eldon is actually the NAL over in California. And then Cammy is in his place now, but I'll go ahead and provide you with kind of a list of how those changes shook out so you know who to contact.
Okay, we had a question from Vicky Olmsted. She asked, will or can updated contacts be sent out when they change? I guess pretty much what my question that I alluded to.
Okay, so yeah, you're talking on the Fish and Wildlife Service side, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, we'll go ahead and that's actually a good ask that I haven't had before, but that's totally something that is helpful to have. So I'll follow up and get a deliverable to create that so that you guys can be aware of those changes.
Chris, did you still have your hand up for another question? Okay, there's a couple in the chat box, I believe, maybe. Nope. Okay, is there any other questions? Any other last ending comments from the panel?
If there's no other questions, I'd like to just thank everybody for having the Fish and Wildlife Service on board. I mean, we really appreciate the opportunity to meet with everybody and push a lot of the endeavors that we're moving forward. And definitely, I'd like to follow up on anything that's important. Got a few items here, but just one last thing as the regional NAL. I mean, if anybody wants to push any items forward, youth engagement being a super important one, please reach out and we'll, just like we did. I think, like I said earlier, the fruits are in the labor of when we put these brilliant minds together that you guys have, what we can accomplish. So I'm hopeful that if we can find those common issues and we can do things like that, that we can actually make great gains and these common issues. But thanks again, Darren, for having us on. We truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anybody else from the panel?
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Darren, from the National Native American Programs Office in behalf of Scott in his absence today, but appreciate the opportunity for us to provide some updates to the southwestern region of the society. So it's good to see folks too, actually. So thanks.
Thank you, DJ. John or Chad?
I don't have anything else to add. Thanks, Darren, for asking.
Yep, thanks for having us on. And just, again, I'm new, so if I'm doing something wrong or I can do something better, please let me know.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I would like to issue a challenge to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. BIA is a gold sponsor with the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, so maybe the Fish and Wildlife Service can be a platinum sponsor for the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. You know, I think you.
Hey, Darren, what does it mean to be a platinum sponsor?
Oh, we can talk with Julie about that. I think we can develop something and see if BIA can match that. But if there's no other questions or comments from the group, I want to thank everybody. We'll be ending a little bit early, but that's okay. We had some good discussion points today. We'll be starting tomorrow again for the breakout sessions. So be sure you log in, go to the agenda and select which session you would like to get on. Remember, we start at 10 o'clock Mountain Daylight Savings Time. So Arizona folks, it's 9 o'clock Arizona time. And if there's no other questions or comments or feedback, I believe we'll go ahead and close out the day. And we hope to see and hear everybody tomorrow. So thank you again. And I'm glad we were all virtually together to listen in on each other's discussions. It was really great topic. And hopefully, like everybody's saying, next year we'll be all together and we'll be able to see each other's smiling faces and be able to give hand. I miss hugging and I miss giving handshakes. So hopefully we'll be able to do that next year. But thanks to everyone for joining the conference, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for moderating, Darren.
Thank you.
You guys have a good evening.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.